They told everyone I gave up. Whispers in kitchens. Side glances at church. She had such a bright future. She was the smart one, right? Shame, really. They rewrote my story before I ever got to hold the pen. They buried my dreams in soft sighs and polite silence. They mourned me while I was still breathing. And I let them. I smiled through the slow suffocation. I clapped for others while holding my own breath. I learned how to disappear in a room full of people who claimed they loved me. It wasn't failure. It was something bigger. Just not visible yet. And when my name was called on stage, when the cap was square on my head and the robe too long for my legs, I looked out. A sea of clapping hands. 1,000 proud smiles. And one empty chair. My father's. They told me he had to work. They told me not to take it personally. But you can't help how hollow your stomach feels when your biggest moment echoes back at you. I shook the dean's hand. I posed for the camera. I said all the right words. And still, I searched the crowd like a lost child at a mall. Hoping. Just hoping. And the cruelest thing? That very night, the same man who didn't show up for my graduation was watching me on TV. Not because I told him to. Not because he changed. But because the world made it impossible not to see me anymore. I didn't plan for that to happen. I didn't plan anything beyond survival. But here's how it unfolded. My name is Alexis Cole. I'm 24 years old. I live in Austin, Texas. And if you've ever been overlooked, forgotten, skipped over by someone you needed most, this story is yours too. Because what happened after that empty chair was louder than any applause I ever could have imagined. They always said I was the one, the smart one, the responsible one, the girl who wouldn't mess it up. I didn't mind the pressure at first. It felt like a compliment until it became a prison. Growing up, my dad wasn't the soft kind of proud. He didn't say, "I love you," after every phone call. But he nodded when I brought home straight A's. He showed up to my spelling bees, with arms crossed, expression unreadable. And when I got into UT Austin on a full scholarship, he finally cracked a smile. That was the currency of approval in our house. You achieved, or you were invisible. No middle ground. No trying. No figuring things out. The path was set early. Get into a top school. Major in something impressive. Law school. Grad school. Medical school. Just pick one. Land a job people brag about at reunions. And Alexis? She would be the crown jewel. I chose journalism. It was the first time my father's smile dimmed. Journalism, he said, raising one eyebrow. Not real news, right? Not clickbait? You'll do something serious? I assured him I would. Investigative. Long form. Impactful. Still, it wasn't medicine. It wasn't engineering. And it definitely wasn't something he could explain at a barbecue with pride. But I buried that sting. I kept moving. I carried a GPA most people would kill for. I joined the school paper. Took internships. Pulled all-nighters. Said yes to every opportunity. Even when it started draining me. Even when the walls started closing in. I remember sitting in my dorm bathroom sophomore year, door locked, hand over my mouth so my roommate wouldn't hear me crying. I didn't even know what I was crying about. It was just exhaustion. The kind that builds over years, slowly, quietly, until it collapses on top of you. Burnout isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's skipping meals because your stomach knots when you look at food. Sometimes it's staring at your laptop for 4 hours and writing nothing but your name. But I couldn't stop. Because if I stopped, I'd disappoint him. And disappointing him felt like erasing myself completely. I kept pushing until my body pushed back. Spring of junior year, I fainted in the campus newsroom. One minute, I was editing a piece about a protest downtown. The next, I woke up on the floor with a crowd around me. They said I was lucky. Dehydration. Malnutrition. Stress. They suggested a medical withdrawal. 3 months. Just enough time to reset. When I called home to tell my parents, I'll never forget the pause on the line. "She's just taking a break," my mom said later to my aunt, loud enough for me to hear. "We don't talk about that anymore. My dad added when a neighbor asked why I wasn't graduating with my class. They acted like I had vanished. Like I was some ghost haunting the house phone. Like I had failed. But I hadn't failed. I was healing. Quietly. Privately. Slowly. I returned the next semester. Finished my degree. Not with fireworks or honors, but with grit. I crossed that stage. My name was called. And still, my father wasn't there. Everyone assumed we were fine. He sent a card. Signed it, Dad. Not love, Dad. Just Dad. And I knew, in that moment, that whatever version of me he was proud of, she didn't exist anymore. I wasn't Alexis the overachiever. I wasn't Alexis the prodigy. I was just me. And that wasn't enough. Not for him. I remember looking in the mirror on graduation morning, trying to tell myself it didn't matter, that his absence didn't take anything from me, that I was whole without him. But when the ceremony ended and families poured onto the lawn, hugging, shouting, crying, I stood alone. And I kept standing, while everyone else moved forward. And that was the moment I made a silent promise. I'll start again. Not for them. Not even for him. But for the girls standing here, unseen, under a Texas sun. No fanfare. No applause. Just the quiet beginning of a new life. One that no one noticed had begun. Starting over wasn't dramatic. It didn't look like the movies. No one made a speech. No doors slammed behind me. No plane tickets. No tearful declarations. It looked like waking up at 6:30 a.m., making oatmeal, checking the job boards, fighting the urge to crawl back under the covers. It looked like folding towels in silence at a local community center because that was the first place that called me back. It paid next to nothing. But at least I wasn't crying in a bathroom stall anymore. The funny thing is, when you've spent so long being promising, any ordinary job feels like failure. Even if it's the first time you've been able to breathe in years. I worked the front desk at the East Austin Community Center. Signed people in. Answered phones. Printed forms. I was invisible again. But this time, it was quiet. Peaceful. One Thursday morning, Ms. Darlene shuffled in. 73 years old. Cane in one hand, iPad in the other, held like it was about to bite her. She plopped it on the counter and said, "This machine hates me." I laughed. She didn't. "This is my daughter's old one," she said. She passed it down like it was a blessing. "But I can't even open the dang camera. I want to see my grandson. He lives in Tacoma." I offered to help. She sat across from me at one of the center's tiny plastic tables. Smelled faintly of menthol and peppermint. We spent 2 hours together. 2. By the end, she had not only opened the camera, she had FaceTimed her grandson. He picked up. Her hands shook. She cried. He cried. And I stood there, holding a paper cup of cold coffee, feeling like I'd just witnessed a miracle. "You brought my baby into my living room," she whispered. Then she squeezed my hand. That night, I didn't cry in the bathroom. I didn't lie awake wondering who I was anymore. I knew. I didn't have to be a journalist at the Times. I didn't need a byline. I just needed a reason to get out of bed that made someone else's life better. So I started small. Flyers. Free tech help for seniors. Mondays and Fridays, 3 p.m. I tacked them up near the coffee pot and in the library corner of the center. Week 1, 2 people showed up. Week 2, 6. Week 3, I had to borrow chairs from the bingo room. They came with their ancient phones, half-broken laptops, old passwords scribbled on envelopes. They cursed at their screens. I showed them how to set up emails, how to back up photos, how to search for recipes on YouTube. We laughed. A lot. And cried sometimes. Especially when they saw videos of their great-grandchildren for the first time. I started a newsletter, nothing fancy. Just tips, reminders, funny tech jokes. I called it The Bright Side. One day, a man named Roger handed me a $50 bill and said, "You saved my marriage. Now I can text my wife from the garage." I framed that bill. It was slow work. Tiny. But it mattered. Not to the world. Not to my father. But to Ms. Darlene. to Roger, to every person who felt left behind in this new digital world. I taught them to reconnect. And somewhere along the way, I reconnected with myself. I was still invisible to the people who once clapped when I aced my exams. Still forgotten at family dinners. Still the girl who took a break. But inside, I had started to glow again. I didn't know where this path would lead. I wasn't building a business. I wasn't chasing glory. But for the first time, I wasn't chasing approval either. And that felt like freedom. Growth crept in quietly, like morning light under a door, slow, steady, unnoticed until the whole room is glowing. What started as me helping seniors on Monday and Friday afternoons became something real, something measurable. By fall, I was teaching 3 sessions a week. We moved from the library corner to the big hall. I ordered name tags. Roger, the guy from the garage, helped me build a simple website. And just like that, the Tech for Elders program was official. I didn't have a team, but I had heart and a Google form. I started tracking our growth. By December, we had on board 320 seniors. By February, 750. By June, 1,200. We weren't just helping people unlock their phones anymore. We were connecting families, teaching seniors how to bank online, refill prescriptions, order groceries, join Zoom Bible study groups. A local nonprofit noticed us. They offered a grant, then a second, then a partnership. I started hiring volunteers, retired teachers, local college students, even a few seniors who became tech mentors themselves. We created weekly guides, launched a podcast. Our newsletter, The Bright Side, hit a 78% open rate, higher than some Fortune 500 companies. I didn't even know that was impressive until someone told me. And yet, back home, it was still silence. At Thanksgiving, my dad asked me, "So, you're still doing that thing with the computers?" I smiled. "Yeah, it's going really well. We just got featured in a local publication." He nodded without looking up from his plate. "That's nice." Nice. Not "I'm proud of you." Not "tell me more." Just nice. At Christmas, my uncle joked, "Teaching old folks to click buttons? Real noble work." My brother added, "She's always been the free spirit." Free spirit. Translation: unpredictable. Soft. Not serious. They used to call me brilliant. Now I was sweet. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Because the truth was, I wasn't doing it for them anymore. Still, it hurt. Not the kind of hurt that stings. The kind that lingers. That settles in your chest like damp air in winter. No matter how much I grew, how much impact I made, I was still the girl who took a break. Still the question mark in every family conversation. Still not the daughter my father could brag about. And yet, I kept going. Because every time Ms. Darlene brought cookies to class, every time a veteran thanked me for helping him navigate the VA website, every time someone whispered, "You make me feel less forgotten," I remembered why I started. We had wait lists. I hired a part-time coordinator. We got coverage in a local news segment. Donations started coming in. The city offered us a permanent space at a reduced rent. I should have felt proud. I should have called my dad. Instead, I sat in my car, outside our new location, and cried. Not because of what I didn't have, but because I finally realized something. I was never invisible. They just weren't looking. That realization shifted something. I stopped trying to earn their recognition. I stopped curating updates for the family group chat. I stopped shrinking my wins into sentences they'd understand. I was building something beautiful. They didn't have to see it for it to be real. Still, life has a way of bringing your name into rooms you never entered. And sometimes, the person who ignored you the loudest ends up watching your story unfold on a screen. It happened on a Thursday, the kind of Thursday that starts like any other. I was running late, spilled coffee on my shirt, printer jammed. One of the regulars called in to say her dog ate her iPad charger. Normal chaos. Predictable, manageable chaos. Until someone from the city's Department of Community Engagement called. "Hey Alexis," she said, cheerful and rushed. "Last-minute thing. There's a panel downtown tonight. Community innovation, tech access for underserved populations, that kind of thing. One of the speakers dropped. You're on the shortlist, can you make it? I blinked. A panel? Downtown? With city officials, maybe press. I hesitated. I wasn't ready. I didn't have the right shoes. But I said yes. Because something deep inside me whispered. This is one of those moments. That night, I sat on a stage under two bright lights. Between a software executive and a councilwoman. They wore polished blazers. I wore my nicest thrifted dress and confidence that barely held together. The moderator introduced me as founder of Tech for Elders, a nonprofit that's digitally empowering Austin's senior population. I smiled like my heart wasn't hammering in my chest. And I spoke. About Ms. Darlene. About Roger in the garage. About forgotten people. About quiet missions that matter. The audience listened. Really listened. And when the applause came, it was loud. After the panel, there was a networking reception in the lobby. I sipped lukewarm punch, nodded politely, answered questions from strangers in suits. Then I heard her voice. Excuse me, are you Alexis Cole? I turned. A woman in her late 30s. Blonde hair, neat curls. Wearing a soft gray coat and eyes that had clearly been crying. Yes, I said cautiously. She smiled. And then she said something I'll never forget. You saved my father. I froze. Confused. She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. My dad. Greg Matthews. He lives alone. Heart condition. I was so scared during the pandemic, I didn't know how to help him. But someone told him about a tech class at the community center. Your class. I blinked. Greg, the man who used to bring his own mouse to class because he didn't like touchpads? She laughed. That's him. I remember him. He was one of our firsts. She nodded, tears forming again. He sends me videos now. Of his tomatoes growing. His dog. He orders his medication. Schedules his checkups. And last month he signed up for a dating site. She laughed through her tears. You gave him his life back. She reached out and took my hand. No one in my family could get through to him. You did. Thank you. I didn't know what to say. I just squeezed her hand. Then she said the words that brought everything full circle. I saw the news clip on TV tonight. The panel was broadcast. I called my dad, and we both watched together. My heart stopped. Broadcast. On TV. Tonight. Do you know, she said softly. My dad turned up the volume and said, that's the girl who taught me how to FaceTime. And just like that, I knew. I knew my father had seen it too. Not because I'd told him. I hadn't. But because my aunt had mentioned it in the family group chat. And my cousin had posted the event flyer on Facebook. And because, by some strange twist of grace, it aired on the same channel my father always watched after dinner. He didn't come to my graduation. Didn't clap when I crossed that stage. Didn't know how many nights I'd cried myself to sleep. Didn't ask why I stopped coming home for holidays. But tonight, he saw me. Not because I demanded attention. Not because I begged for recognition. Not because I stood on his porch shouting my worth. But because the truth walked into the living room by itself and refused to stay quiet. That night I got home late, shoes in hand, heart buzzing. I poured myself tea and sat by the window. My phone buzzed. A message. From my dad. Just one line. Saw you on TV. Proud. That's it. No emojis. No explanation. But I read it 10 times. Then I cried. Not because I needed him to say it, but because he finally had. After that night, things didn't change overnight. There was no dramatic reconciliation. No surprise party. No feature on the front page of the paper. But something softened. A few days after the panel, a card arrived in the mail. From my mom. Handwritten. It smelled faintly of the lavender drawer sachets she always kept in the linen closet. Inside was a simple message. I'm sorry we didn't ask more questions. You've done something important. Love, Mom. There was a tiny pressed flower taped inside. The same kind I used to collect from our backyard when I was little. I didn't call her. Not right away. But I kept the card on my desk. I still have it. Then, 2 weeks later, my brother sent me a link. It was an article. Something about digital inclusion and aging populations. He'd highlighted a paragraph. Programs like Tech for Elders are revolutionizing access. Founder Alexis Cole says it's not about the internet. It's about dignity. Underneath it, he wrote, "Didn't know you were making waves. That's pretty badass." That was his version of an apology. And I took it. Slowly, the silence turned into small acknowledgments. Nothing loud. Nothing performative. Just human. Dad started calling once a month. Then once a week. Sometimes we just talked about the weather, about the neighbor's new fence, about sports. But it was something. He didn't become suddenly warm or overflowing with praise. But the sharp edges dulled. He started asking questions. He started listening. Once, after I told him about a granite one, he said, "You're building something real. That's good. That matters." I didn't say anything. But I remember smiling so hard it hurt. The biggest shift, though, wasn't in them. It was in me. For so long, I measured my worth by their standards, their definitions, their timelines. But now I looked in the mirror and saw someone else. Not the girl who stepped away. Not the girl who took a break. Not the girl who disappointed her father. But the woman who showed up anyway. Who built something from the ground. Who didn't need applause to do what was right. It wasn't pride. It was peace. I started walking slower, laughing more, saying no to things that didn't align, saying yes to things that scared me. I took weekends off. I let my volunteers lead classes without me. I even traveled just to travel. I stopped trying to be impressive and started trying to be whole. One evening, I sat on the porch of our new community center, watching the sun dip behind the parking lot trees. Ms. Darlene came out and handed me a cup of tea. "Look at you," she said, smiling. "All grown up, still changing lives." I laughed. "Just trying to keep the Wi-Fi working." She touched my arm. "No, baby. You kept us connected long before the internet did." I looked at her and realized she wasn't just talking about routers or emails. She was talking about humanity, about being seen, about feeling like you belong. That's what this journey had given me. Not fame, not fortune, not a shiny plaque, but purpose, and a voice, and, maybe most importantly, the quiet knowing that I'm enough. I didn't print my dad's message. I didn't frame my mom's card. I just kept them, because I didn't need to prove anything anymore. I had already become someone. I was proud to be. If you've ever sat quietly at a celebration and wondered why it didn't feel like yours, this story was for you. If you've ever done something extraordinary and had no one clap, if your voice ever cracked from holding in everything you wish someone would just notice, I get it. Truly, I do. I know what it's like to feel invisible, in rooms filled with people who love you, but don't understand you, who want to be proud of you, but only on their terms. I know what it feels like to have dreams that don't fit in dinner conversations, to follow a path that doesn't come with neat titles or easy explanations. I know how heavy it is to carry purpose without praise, but I also know this. There is deep, powerful beauty in being unseen while you become, because when you do it anyway, when you plant seeds in silence, when you build with your bare hands and tired heart, when you love the thing you do, even when no one's watching, the right kind of recognition always finds you. It may not come when you want it. It may not come from the people you crave it from, but it comes. And when it does, you'll realize that the most sacred thing wasn't the applause. It was the becoming. We spend so much of our lives trying to prove we're worthy of love, of respect, of belonging. But maybe the real magic is proving it to ourselves first. Because when you know who you are, no one can edit your story. You don't need to go viral to matter. You don't need a stage to be seen. You don't need permission to rise. You just need a moment. One small, quiet moment To believe that everything you've been building has value, that you have value, even when the world scrolls past, even when the dinner tables fall silent, even when the chairs meant for your biggest day stay empty. Someone somewhere is watching, learning, healing, because of the light you kept lit. Maybe it's a stranger. Maybe it's your child, your neighbor, your future self. Maybe it's the person you thought had forgotten you. Or maybe, just maybe, it's you, watching your own life unfold, finally recognizing how far you've come, and whispering, "I'm proud of you." If this story reached you today, then welcome. This space is for you, for the late bloomers, the quiet builders, the people rewriting what success looks like. Wherever you are, however you're doing, drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what you're building. Tell me who you're becoming. Because your story matters too. And someone somewhere is waiting to hear it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you, most of all, for becoming. More stories, real, raw, and quietly powerful, are coming soon. Until then, be gentle with your journey. And never forget, just because they didn't clap, doesn't mean the moment wasn't worthy. You were. You are. Always.